So, as you see, I'm Michael, for people who don't know me on the call. I'm judging manager for BYBA, and we're just going to run through quickly what judges we actually use within BYBA. So, as you can see from the slide, we've got our general musical effect, which will sit at the back of the stand. We also have a general visual effect and also a colour guard judge. All three of those judges will be sat at an elevated position in the stand so that they can oversee the whole performance that's going off on the arena. On field, we have field visual judge. We also have the field percussion judge and also a field wind judge. Now, these three judges will be moving around the field, looking at the actual performance, how it's being performed, things like that. So they'll be moving around, sampling, and they'll be doing recordings just like the judges that are up in the actual stand. This is a running commentary on the performance, any good spots that we find, any areas that we think can be worked on, that sort of thing. We also have a turnout judge who generally stays at the front. They don't actually do a recording. They're going to be moving around the field looking at cleanliness of your instruments, uniform, that sort of thing. There'll be more information about that in the actual sheets. We've brought back this year the drum major, and we've also brought back the field commander. Now, the field commander will be done by the general musical effect judge, who will be up in the stand, and the drum major, if we don't have someone available who can do this purely just judging that caption, that would then go into the field visual section, and that'd be done by the field visual judge that's out on the field. Could you move on, Barbara? Thank you. So, as I've just been saying, judges record a commentary. These are the tapes that I mentioned in the previous slide. And these tapes are just for your band. They're available after your performance. We take the tapes away, we move them from the recorders that we use, and then they're available to your instructional staff. We are going to be changing the way we do that this year. You won't be hassled for having to bring you little MP3 players. We're going to actually do this so that you're able to listen to these on your mobile phone through a link that we'll share with any of your instructors and any of the staff that you have. If you want the actual performance to be able to hear those tapes, they'll be able to do that. Judging sheets, these are going to be shared with bands. Then after that, we can look at the critique, which is where you get the opportunity to spend some time with the judge, go through any points that you feel you would like to discuss, and also to get some feedback from the judge. We have actually changed the process of that as well, which I think is covered later on, if I'm not mistaken. And also, sorry?
Yes, it's covered later.
Cool.
Provided we can get Paul on, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Also, as well, most of the judges, if you ask them, they will actually provide feedback after the actual performance if you require it. So if you don't get enough time in critique, if there's a question you forgot to ask, something like that, you can always contact one of the judges or myself, and then I'll pass the information on to the judge, and then they'll be able to feedback to you. So, just looking at the judges, so these are the current judges as it is at the moment. So, Paul Morgan is the caption manager for music. He's also a general musical effect judge. These slides are a little bit the wrong way around, but we'll work with it. So sitting under Paul Morgan, there is myself as field percussion judge. There is Neil Wright, who is anything musical. So he does field wind, he does field percussion, and he also does general musical effect. As you can see here, we've got Keith on field wind, and we've also got Gary on wind and also general musical effect. We've then got Tony Lees, who's the caption manager for visual for visual judges. Sorry, Tony is our colour guard judge. Then we've got Andrew Horton, who does general visual effect and also field visual. We've got Clive Bird, field visual. Keith is also trained in field visual, and Richard Hoare, we've got general visual effect and field visual. You're a bit fast, Barbara. So the new judging system. So we have gone back to the drawing board with the judging system after listening to the membership and also looking at previous years and things like that. We were told that the judging system didn't fit all the band types that we have as an organisation in BYBA. So Tony Hendel started this process last year. I picked that up, and we've moved forward with a new system, which has been put forward. So it comes into operation as of now. It was actually used yesterday at the BB Nationals by Richard and Andrew and also Rob Steele, I think it was, and a couple of others, and they actually used that as our new judging system. Sorry, just bear 1 second. So the effect captions are divided into repertoire and performance. So the what and the how, which previously these have been used as they were known as content and achievement. Field captions, these are divided into the what and the how, which is composition and achievement. And then we've got core captions, which will become a little bit clearer later on as some of the other guys jump in and continue the presentation. So your core captions that contribute to your overall score: general musical effect, general visual effect, field wind, field percussion, and field visual. And then we've got specialised captions, which are colour guard, field commander, drum major, and turnout. Is this for Richard? Barbara?
This is for Neil.
Neil, sorry.
I'm on. Hello, everyone. Sorry. And I've got a video as well. Okay, so musical effect. When we went back to the drawing board, we wanted to think about what really is effect. Now, if I asked everybody on this video call what affected them musically, we'd probably get 20, 30, maybe even more different answers. But the main thing is that when is making a performance exciting is one of the things that creates effect within your chosen style. So I think the best way of describing the best sort of effect is how big is the burger queue when your band is performing. Are you creating interest? Are you making it musical? Are you making this? Is it head turning? That's to me what effect is. So we're looking at variety, we're looking at tempo, we're looking at overall uniformity, and having a listen to that with the band. Is the percussion section balanced? Or if you have a front line or a pit, are they playing as part of an ensemble, and is it balanced with the person at the back of the field? So are we getting that overall sound? Is it clarity? So we want it to fit with the visual aspects as well. So it fit as we are watching it, as if the tempo is going at 120 beats per minute, and visually we're in blocks, is it chunky? Is it flowing, etc., etc. So it's how it's put together as well. So thinking about structure and design, if you are playing a march, is the tempo uniformed across the ensemble? Is it balanced? Again, are we all in control of our instruments from an effect point of view? If you are running, for instance, if you are in a drum corps style and you are running across the field and playing semi-breves, that's reasonably easy. But if you're running across the field and playing semi-quavers, it becomes hard from a point of view. Same with traditional drill. If you are doing lots of terms with a traditional snare drum on, the drum will move. So it's a case of, you know, we're taking that into consideration with your technical control. Has your visual and musical package been written aesthetically? So if you're doing all these technical things, does it warrant? Have your writers overwritten it? One or two of the things we're looking at within that. Sorry, I'm waffling on here. But we want it to be musical within whatever style you are playing, whether it be a ballad, whether it be a march, whether it be a big band number, whether it be an orchestral piece. It needs to be musical. So we're looking for musical variety within your show, something that creates interest. You play a march and you go to a ballad, or you go to a slow march, for instance. Looking as well for how you will interpret the music. If, for instance, you are playing a beautiful ballad or something classical, and your drum line is going 10 to the dozen, does that fit with the actual musical design of your show? Does it make sense? Does it sound correct? And again, one of the biggest impacts is some bands from time to time, and I've judged on a couple of different circuits, and we don't take into account dynamics. Dynamics are such an emotional package with effect. They can really build us to a hit point or an impact point where your band turns on traditional drill or show band style, whatever. But it's a case of, are we using those to the best of our ability? Are we using them to the best to create the best effect? And again, emotion and mood, that can be interpreted as, I know in the past some people have, you know, sort of thought about that as more the show band or drum corps style. But with my traditional hat on, are we creating emotion within the style we play things? Are we using the dynamics to control that? Are we creating, when we get to those crescendos and we have those hit points, are we crescendoing as a band together towards that to create that effect and to create that absolute change of mood? And again, tempo and meter, just making sure we are together, we are uniformed across the whole ensemble. I think that's covered most of that. Can we move a slide on, Barbara? Okay, field wind. I think field wind is one of the easiest categories that we can look at across any different style of marching band, because at the end of the day, the biggest word I would bring into play on this is uniformity. Are we all doing whatever we are doing in the same style, not as a different band, but in the same style within that band? Are we all articulating this the same way? Are we all got mastery in our chosen style the same way? And tone quality with that, it's about making sure that nobody's jumping out with the ensemble. There is no stars. There is a uniformity all the time. Okay, occasionally we will have the soloist, but the rest of the time the band or the unit should be played in unity at all times. So we're getting the same tonal colour, the same warmth, the same width of sound, the balance is correct, articulation, making sure that our tenor horns or our mellophones are all tonguing the same way as our trumpets, so we're not getting tars against dars, etc., etc. And the main thing is being musical, making sure that we, every note that we strive to play within the section, we want the person sat in the stand or judging us to listen to and want to listen to, not, oh, that was in my face, that was out of the way. We want it to be musical. So we want everything that you're doing to be of the best quality that you can basically put together. And I say, going back, looking at the second part on the achievement, uniformity, that just speaks for itself. Whatever you're doing, make sure it's the same. And accuracy, precision, picking the tempo up. If you've got a bass drummer in a traditional band, are we all locking into the bass drummer? If you've got a field commander in a show band or a drum corps, are we all locking in? Are we all getting the same tempo? Is it precise? Is it working in time with our feet, etc., etc.? And again, breath support, just making sure that we're not playing 8-bar phrases and running across a field, whether it's in light infantry style or drum and bugle corps style, making sure that if we doing things like that, we're thinking about phrasing, we're thinking about breath support, we're thinking about where we breathe. And that's the not least intonation, tuning, making sure that the amount of times I've been in critique and the wind instructor has said, well, we tuned before we went on the field. Are you tuning in with your tuned percussion instruments? So having an electric tuner, but if your electric tuner is in tune in your bell lyre or your frontline xylophone, and it's a semitone flat, you need to be tuning to that because they cannot move in pitch. So just thinking about all little things like that, and looking at a valve slide. One of the biggest things with brass is that we all tune to the open note scale instead of, for instance, some instruments like mellophones can be slightly sharp on Fs. So are we all making sure that those first valve slides are in tune? Are we getting the same intonation across the band? And next one, Barbara. Okay, and percussion, again, coming back to that word uniformity again, making sure that everything we do is together. So and the main thing is when we're looking at timing, are we in time at all times? Are we thinking about where our pulse sensors are coming from? Are we internalising the pulse? Are we doing that together? Now, with a traditional band, that's also as important with stick lifting as it is in actually what you're playing. Are your sticks hitting your face at the same time as as it's going up on snare drumming, as the other one is hitting the drum? Is it together, or is there's no variety of tempo in that? And making sure again with variety, okay, with it for again. Making sure that we're not using the same patterns across pieces and using the same patterns to fit in with every piece we play. With traditional, again, that's slightly different. If we come into marches, so we've got to think about the visual impact. Are we getting the variety through some of the visuals? So if we're not playing, are we doing silent stick lifting, as in Royal Marine style, or cymbal swings? Is it and making sure that we're creating that variety all the time and making sure we're using our technical control to enhance that. And musicality, again, I touched on this with musical effect. We don't, so many times is the norm that I say you get some bands or drum corps or whatever playing a lovely ballad, and we get this beautiful line that's being played by the wind section and the mallets playing these lovely counter melodies or whatever, and then sometimes you just get a drum line for some reason just coming in and playing in a completely different style, as many different notes and beats that they can fit into each crotchet beat as they can, and it's about us actually being musical. If it doesn't need, sometimes less is more. So just thinking about that, how are we going to be musical with it? How are the percussion section going to really enhance the value of the program? And I was taught as a young percussionist that sometimes a good percussionist is felt, not heard, and that's often true within the marching bands. But we just want to feel that musicality underneath the program, which is enhancing the program, not taking over from it. And again, emotion talks through music. A lot of that comes with a percussion line on the build up to crescendo points or hit points, where we absolutely enhance the band and push it forward, get to the hit point and get out of the way again. And that there again comes down to control, knowing where we push through, where we need to be leading the band and having that dynamic, but then having the control to get out of the way from a dynamic point of view, but also having the control. Are we all using the same grip with our left hand, our right hand? Whether you're using match grip or orthodox grip, that's not a problem, but it's making sure that if you're playing, if you've got two marimba players, they're playing the same sticking. If you've got two xylophone players, they're playing the same sticking, or same grip, should I say, not sticking, because obviously we use different grips within styles, and you sometimes would use a different grip on a vibraphone than you would to a marimba, for instance, depending on what you're doing. But making sure that if you've got two marimba players, they're playing the same stick control. If you've got two vib players, they're playing the same. And again, precision, making sure you're absolutely together, you're absolutely clean, you're absolutely uniformed.
Okay, Paul, can we hear you?
Me?
Yeah.
General effect visual?
Oh no, sorry.
I'm pretty sure that's not me, Barbara. I can certainly do it if you want me to. I think that's our Richard, isn't it?
I'm happy to do it. I'll have a go.
Yep. Take
I'm forward doing a good job. I'll stick my oar in and have a dab. Yeah, I think the important thing to notice here, with the first thing that I would point out, is we're talking about repertoire now on the top box. And we're not talking about concepts. You don't have to have a concept or a theme. And I think that's driven many shows in the past to go down a certain route. And what we're saying now is the repertoire, the mix is the important thing. So you can play completely unrelated tunes or pieces of music. As long as the repertoire makes sense, you've got a variety in there, then you don't have to stick to a specific theme or concept. And I think that's driven us almost down a drum corps show band route with themes and concepts, and having to explain every minute, every second of the show how it relates to a theme. So just to point out that we now have repertoire and performance. So you know your book, what's been written, and how well you do it on the day. So reading through the sheets, we have quality of design, and that's how well the show has been put together by the writer, how much sense it makes, how things flow from one moment to the next. Does it make logical sense? You know, are there any functional transitions in there? So that's a bit of jargon coming in there, but it's all done for a reason. We talk about range and variety effects. So, you know, variety is the key here. You know, any band, even if you're talking about a drum corps or the Royal Marines, you need variety in the performance. And that can be minute varieties, like maybe if you're counter-marching, changing the way you counter-march, to maybe different types of step that could be used, or different visual designs within the performance. We're talking about pacing, which is the planning of effects along the show. So you're pacing, if there's a 2-minute gap where not a lot happens, that's probably not a good thing. You need to keep things happening, keep the show interesting from an audience point of view, keep it exciting, interesting and effective. I'm not going on too long, am I? Okay, yeah. Okay, coordination on staging, which is the way things and elements are involved and work together, and where we create an effect. Visual musicality, and that's probably the most important thing from my point of view, and that's how we link the music to the visual. You know, am I seeing what I'm hearing? Does it make sense? You know, you can't play a ballad and run around at 220 beats a minute. That makes no sense. So does the visual reflect the musical book in the way it's written? And of course, creativity and imagination, probably that's another very important aspect. Now, is it creative? Are you making use of your imagination? You know, it doesn't have to be a brand new idea, but are you doing it in a slightly different way? Are we interpreting it in a new and novel way? So that's about being inventive in your design choices. On the performance side of things, I think the thing that's been missing from the system in the past has been, is there an emotional response? Does it create is it actually, okay, you've got a concept, you've got a theme, you do this, you do that, but is there an effect generated? Is there an emotional response from the audience? If everybody gets up and shouts and screams and that's brilliant, fantastic, that's an emotional response. If people start laughing, that's an emotional response. Hopefully they're laughing for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. We talk about ensemble control, uniformity, and expression. And that's how each section of the band actually moves in relation to each other and how they control that. So that's how we actually move about those. It's okay having a brilliant idea, a brilliantly written repertoire, but if you can't actually control that on the field and make things work logically, then you're not going to create the effects you're looking for. We talk about professionalism and competence. So that's, again, how well you can actually put the designer's ideas on the field. And I talked about this a lot yesterday when I was judging at the BB Championships. You know, if you march with poise and posture, of course it's going to be picked up on the field by the field visual judge. But from a general effect point of view, that's a great effect. You know, no one wants to see a band marching on the field all droopy and not looking like they're enjoying themselves. It's about professionalism and projecting and competence. We talk about managing simultaneous responsibilities. It's a bit of a mouthful. What it's actually saying is, can you do multiple things at the same time? So can you march and play? Can you do this visual that the designer's written and move at the same time? So it's about, you got all these different things going on. Can the performers successfully perform the show? Okay, that's general visual effect or general effect visual. Okay, field visual. Now I've not judged this for a while, so I'm going to wing it a little bit here. So I'll get this up on the screen. Basically, this is the nuts and bolts from the field level. How well is the band marching? How well can they actually put the designer's ideas on the field, and that's to march the show. So we're talking about, you know, the basics of drill. So in the composition, we're talking about the range and variety of movement skills. So how well is the band moving? How well do how well can they do that body visual movement, and are they together in that? We talked about degree of challenge. Now, that interesting choice of word. We did a long debate about this, but degree of challenge is how much demand is placed on the performers. Is it correct for the people on the field? So that's, you know, that could be physical demand, but it's also mental demand as well. You know, if we're asking them to, it's like patting your head and rubbing your belly, or, you know, asking them to do multiple things at the same time. Are they capable of meeting that demand? It's okay, they're playing this amazing 16th note, these runs up and down on the trumpets, but can they actually also balance on one foot while hopping on the spot? And that's what we're saying. Can they handle the degree of challenge that's been thrown at them? We talk about a variety of tempos and meters. Okay, so that's, again, going back to what I said earlier in the general effect. Are they putting variety in the performance from a marching drill point of view? You know, can they slow march? Can they march at double tempos? And there's a variety of different styles being demonstrated. And simultaneous responsibilities, again, we're talking about, can they do many things at the same time? Okay, can they do multiple tasks, really? It's been asked them by the designer. Articulation of body and equipment, that's, can they move themselves around the field? Can they move their equipment in a way that makes sense? And these are common sense things in the achievement box now. We're talking about alignment and spacing. Are they aligned correctly? You know, this is all drill and department. Is the spacing consistent from member to member? Are they precise in their movement and their uniformity of carriage and style? Breaks and turns. Is everybody uniform in the way they follow each other around the field? I'll quote this one, so it's a bit of a tricky one. So it's the consistency of individuals and the uniformity in relation to everybody else on the field. So, you know, is it consistent? Okay. Adherence to tempo and pulse. You know, are you in step, basically? Are you in step? Are you out of step? Are you phasing with the feet? And adherence to style and role. So we're talking about the appropriateness of the choice of drill and design from a musical and band point of view. And I think that's it, really, for me. Have I missed anything? Did I go on too long?
No, all good. Tony, are you there? Tony, are you there? Well, I can see that he's there, but we can't hear you. We'll give him 30 seconds and then somebody else will have to take it. No, Tony, we can't hear you. Oh, right. We'll come back, Tony, we'll come back to you. See if you can unmute yourself in some fashion and we'll come back to this one. So, Richard, are you able to take drum major?
I'll do my best. I'm not a drum major person myself. I think basically it's all there on the sheet. So we're talking about, if we go back to the sheet, you know, can they maneuver? When we talk about drum major, maneuvering. So can they maneuver the band around the field? Can they get the band to countermarch? Can they get them to do an incline? Can they get them to wheel? That's what we're talking about maneuvering. And signaling is how they actually make that known to the band. Are they appropriate? Is the signaling clear to the band? To telling them to halt by raising the mace in the hand? Is that clear? And does everybody understand what that means? We talk about use of equipment. So I guess with the drum major, we're talking about, generally speaking, will be the mace that they're maybe flourishing or throwing or carrying in some manner. Variety, we talk about, you know, the variety of movement and variety of even equipment used. So, you know, if we don't want to see the same thing 100 times, if they can put some variety within their performance, if they can do a triple or double round the back, on the neck, under the legs, then that's all good stuff. And balance, we're talking about, you know, is the balance between controlling the band and providing a display met in a sensible way. So it's no good being able to throw a 20 spin toss, and then the band's off the side of the field because you're not controlling them, and vice versa. You know, it's great having control of the band, but if there's no performance in there, if it's done in a boring way, then that's probably not much better either. And deportment, we're talking about the basic drill and deportment, as I mentioned in the field visual. So can the march, what is their carriage like? What's their bearing like? How do they carry themselves around the field? So that's basically drum major for me. Okay. Hello.
Hello, can you take field commander as well?
Maybe when the music caption guys might better be in the field commander. I can do it if you like.
Neil, do you want to take it on?
Yeah, I can do. Can you? Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So field commander really is a good field commander can make or break a band. Sorry, a good or a bad one. A good one is aware of the strong musicians in the band as well as the weaker ones. So he knows or she knows where to control what's coming next, uses their eyes a lot and sort of body position to control different sections of the band. So it's down to clarity of conducting. If you know you've got a tempo change coming, from a control of the band point of view, you want to be looking at your drum section if it's going to be the drum section that are going to change that tempo. So you are giving them eye contact, two bars beforehand, starting to move that forward. You're in control all the time. So as the band's moving around the field, you know where the potential leaders of that section are, where the people that will drive your band or hold it back or will get the balance right. You're pulling them in and you're getting them to work with you, and obviously by looking at art, using your eyes, you're able to look at where people are overblowing, etc., etc. From a variety and balance, it's just about getting the variety of the musicianship in your showmanship. Yeah, okay, it's about, dare I say it, how you wiggle. PDM would have probably been better on this one. Being a championship field commander in his day, but also it's about getting the balance. About making sure that your band, you are in control of your band at all times. We tend to have a lot nowadays where people are just basically a metronome stood on a box. But you can do so much more as a field commander. You can really get those dynamic changes to work, really get your band to locking tempo rise, really get that extra emotion, that extra push, and just really transform the musical aspect of it. And then the deportment, how you carry it, you've got to set the example to your band. The way you lead your band, the way you march on, the way you lead your band off, you're in control. Your deportment is absolutely 110% all the time. Your uniformity is right within yourself. I don't think I've missed anything. If I have, PDM, raise your hand and shout if I've missed anything. People.
Okay, well, he doesn't seem to be raising his hand, so that seems to be it. Neil, can you take on turnout? We don't have the turnout judge with us today.
Yeah, I could do that. Have you got the sheet?
Yep.
Okay. Turnout, exactly the same as we've spoken about in field music and field percussion. It's about uniformity and having one standard, and that standard is the highest standard possible. So drum heads clean, all the different parts of your instrument are cleaned and well maintained. Just making sure that everybody, if you've all got black shoes and they're all dull, but they're all polished the same. If somebody's got, a really highly polished toe caps, then the rest of the band needs to have highly polished toe caps. So it's making sure that everything we do is correct. But for drum straps, for instance, they on a traditional band, making sure that if they're still using Blanco on them, the Blanco, and they're all done the same. If they're the plastic ones, they're all been cleaned properly and washed, so there's no blacks, there's no marks on it, there's no paint on them off drumsticks, etc. If you've got the frame harnesses and the white, that they've all been cleaned properly with T-cut or something, or if they're the black ones, they're all painted, there's no chips, there's no marks. Same with pit or frontline. we're all wearing, if we're all wearing gloves, we're all wearing gloves. Hair for the girls or boys, if you've got longer hair, if you're wearing it down, you're all wearing it down. If it's tucked up and it's under your hats, it's all the same. So I say it's down to uniformity and that air of smartness, that air of deportment and personal pride in everything that we do from a band point of view. So it's just a fine detail.
Okay, thank you. We're still waiting for Tony to come back on and be able to be heard. So what I think we're going to do is we are going to push on, and we've got a little bit on the score sheets, which we'll come to first, and hopefully Tony Lees will be on then to take us through the colour guard. So Richard, coming to you next.
Okay, I'm here. What do you want me to say about the score sheets? Ah, the score sheets, yes, excellent. So that's just the top half. Is there more to the score sheet than that, Barbara? Yeah, okay, that's fine. Go back. Okay, right. The score sheet is pretty similar to what we've had in the past, the old S1 score sheet. Obviously, it's broken down by captions, so we have the general musical effect and general visual effect in the top half of the sheet, which is the general effect caption. And then below that, we have the field captions: field visual, field percussion, field wind. Now, what we've done this year, we've weighted them, so we've given higher scores to the effect captions because that's where I believe where we want the bands to be looking at with the general effect of the band. You notice on the field captions we've scored the field visual slightly higher. That's out of 200 rather than 150 for field wind and field percussion, and that's just to keep the visual to music split as near to 50-50 as we possibly can. And the bottom half of the sheet, which this will all be one sheet when it's printed out, we have the colour guard, drum major, field command, and turnout judge. Now these don't directly contribute towards a total. These are all scored out. Well, scored out 200, 150, no, sorry, is that correct? Yeah, so 200, 150, 150, and 200. So this, that score does not contribute towards your total score, but of course the performance of the colour guard, drum major, field commander, and your overall look in terms of turnout will feed into your effect captions. And of course the colour guard will also be judged by the field visual judge as well.
Okay, so I don't think Tony's been able to join us back again. So we'll come back to him at the end. Hopefully he'll be able to join us. But until then, we'll move on to critique. And Paul is going to take us through that. So over to you, Paul.
Brilliant. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Excellent. Okay, we're going to take you through, you've had this wonderful performance by your band, and you've thought it was the best performance you've ever had. Now comes the part where you can interact with the judging process on a one-to-one or one-to-many basis so that you can get direct feedback from what they actually thought by individual captions or as a group. We've made a bit of a change this year, so I'm going to talk about the new approach for the 2019 season. We're going to look at why you should attend a critique, the purpose of it. We're going to look at the etiquette that we'd like everybody to undertake while they enter the critique process. How to prepare, that's quite important, because there's a number of things that I think will benefit you as a band or as band leaders or as instructors if you prepare in a specific way, ready for critique, to get the most out of it. And then I'm going to actually summarize into 5 ways that you can really get the most out of critique. Okay, so we'll start at first with the new approach. The critique process essentially is really for you guys. It's for you to come in as an instructor base. You can have your senior instructors come in, your bandmasters. You can have your junior instructors come in, or you can have people that you want to sort of, learn the process of how to interact with the judge. but we're going to give you 6 minutes this year, and the 6 minutes can be sliced and diced however you like it. So, for example, if my learned friend and chairman, Mr. Neil Wright, was judging you on general musical effects, and you had some feedback from Neil on your audio that you'd like to discuss just with Neil, you can spend all 6 minutes talking to Neil. And I'm sure Neil would be delighted to spend all those 6 minutes. I know that the other judges would be absolutely delighted with that. Or you can separate your music caption judges with your visual caption judges. You can individually talk to all of the judges one-on-one. The most important thing is to remember is you've got 6 minutes. So it's really, really important that you know before you go in actually how you want to use those 6 minutes. That's really, we're going to touch on that as a part of the preparation process. The participation is entirely optional. You do not have to attend critique, and nobody will feel any different towards you or your band or your unit if that's not possible. We often have cases where groups and bands have to leave the competition field or day earlier than they had originally planned. It could be driver's hours forcing. That doesn't mean that the judging process is going to have any negative or positive view on you whatsoever. It is time for you to interact with the judging process to really get to understand how they saw the production that they were judging on the field. They aren't necessarily judging you as individuals. They're judging what they can see and hear. But in essence, if you are part of the design process, then obviously there's an interaction where that will be incredibly valuable. Because if you've designed something that the judge just isn't picking up or understands, it's really a very, very good opportunity to try and point that out to the judge. Why should you attend the critique? Again, it's an opportunity for the instructor and the judge to really exchange insights. Most people get the best benefit out of critique by interacting. If you're in, make sure that you interact with the judge. Get your points over, as much as you can. Critique isn't there for the judge just to talk. The judge will give exactly what you need him to give you based on your performance on that day. Okay, so it's mainly for the benefit of the instructors. So for the bandmasters, for the instructors, for the junior and senior instructors, or the writers or the designers, whoever is involved in the production to get the production to work, right through the teaching process, to design through to the teaching process. That's really who critique is for. Okay. Equally, it can also benefit the judge, because it's entirely possible that the judge has not picked up something that you really want them to pick up. That's typically apparent in the effect areas, where you've generated an effect that maybe hasn't been quite understood by the judge, or you feel that you've actually created an effect that hasn't been maximized in terms of value given and recognized by the judge. That's entirely possible, and that happens all of the time. So the judge can be educated through this process too. So it is two-way, okay? But the critique, at the end of the day, belongs to you. This is your time for you to get the most out of the educational process that the judge has just gone through in his audio file, and also to get some guidance. The judges that you'll be up against on your meet through the British Youth Band Association are incredibly experienced people. Many have started bands, are band leaders, are arrangers, composers. They're musicians in their own right. These are incredibly gifted people that have a wonderful array of knowledge to pass on. Now, they will never get involved in designing your program for you. That's your job. But what they can do is give you experience, if that is something that we feel is a beneficial exchange in that process. I've got stuck here, I've tried to do this. How, is there anything you can recommend? Or have you tried this in rehearsal? Have you tried that? We will never tell you how to write your program, but we will use our experience to help guide you. Okay, I think that's really important. The purpose of the critique is really to clarify the audio that we provide every unit. Now, however long your particular performance is, we'll have a digital audio recording device, and we will be verbalizing our thought process. That's an incredibly difficult thing to do. It's easy to say, but incredibly difficult to do, because as your production is, or your program is moving on, we may be commenting on something that's actually just gone before. So we have to make sure that we balance our commentary, and also make sure that we're giving you as much information as we possibly can based on what we're seeing and what we're hearing. So I wouldn't look at a digital audio as something that is going to be 100% useful. It won't, okay? If you get an audio file that gives you at least 40 to 50% worth of real useful information that you can exchange a dialogue on, that's a great recording. And purely and simply because of that, it's impossible to comment on absolutely everything that goes on. Plus, you just don't want to hear a running commentary. Okay, what you want to hear is, how is this performance affecting me based on the caption that I'm adjudicating on? And those are how we'll break down those things. The discussion, we'll discuss parts of the show, and also we'll discuss parts that we've missed. And this is where that two-way dialogue goes through, which we spoke about earlier. You can offer insights to us. You can say, look, this is what I was trying to do here. I was trying to, countermarch down here, and as we were moving back, this is supposed to look like an anchor as we came through, which maybe didn't quite come off during the day. That's perfectly plausible and valuable information for us, because then we can be aware of that particular transition. You may want to introduce color into your production that meant and referenced a specific motif. Again, we may not have picked that up, and that's something that's very, very plausible that we can start to dialogue on. The more information we get about your intent, how you've developed your production or your program or your routine, and what, any changes that may be likely to occur, the more beneficial it is for us to assess the production and the performance. Discuss, we put on here that we'll discuss your score in relation to the judging criteria, and what that will do will assist you if you're unsure of how we've arrived at a specific number for your particular performance. And it will be, and I stress this, a score based on your performance on that day. It doesn't matter whether or not you scored a 95 the week before. If the sun was shining and everything was absolutely perfect, the stand was perfect, and you had an amazing performance. If we're judging you and it's torrential rain, we can't hear what's going on, as an assessor, all we can do is judge what we see and hear. So don't always expect your score to increase. Don't expect your score to decrease. Expect the most important thing for you to think about is do the best performance you can on that day, because that's all we will be assessing. So we can discuss your score in relation to what we saw and heard and how that fits to the criteria reference. And the criteria reference that we're referring to is the numbered system that the chaps have just outlined for you. So we can help you to understand how we've arrived at that number, and that's a very beneficial exchange. The thing that we've put on here is to ask for advice. Never be afraid to ask for advice. If it's on a design level, we may have to be a little bit more reserved, but 9 times out of 10, we will always offer our experience to help you. That's what we're there for. But you also must understand that we're there to assess the performance on the day. Okay? Moving on, Barbara. Yeah, etiquette. I'm really guilty of this more than most people. I get very passionate. If I've arranged a piece of music, or I've composed a piece of music, or I've written a particular production, both of those things, or all those things I do, I know it inside out, okay? I know exactly what that fifth should sound like. I know exactly the strength of my brass section. I know exactly how I've written for the percussion section. I also know exactly where I want my little rogues to be stationed at any one time. So for me, I know everything about my production. The judge doesn't. Okay, it's a really important point. You have a passion about what you've written and what you've produced, way in excess of what the actual physical judge can ever have on any given day. But we want that passion. Okay, we want you to come in and share that passion with us. What we don't want to do is to spend 6 minutes of your valuable time telling you we don't want to talk about another performer. This is your time. You know, we will not compare your unit with anybody else in the critique process. That's not what it's for. It's for helping you develop your production or your performance in as much, you know, positivity that we can possibly muster. Come in with your passion. Leave at the door anger. Leave at the door things that, you know, are really not going to be supportive of that process. Don't swear at the judges. I don't think the judge, you know, it deserves that, for one. We have things in place on the judging side to prevent judges from, you know, engaging in that kind of level of exchange. It's not useful. Okay, so find a way, even if you are passionate, find a way to curb the anger side of that, but bring the passion in. Okay, we absolutely want the passion. We've sort of touched on what we can and can't do in terms of your own design process. So you can't really expect a judge to rewrite your music book or rewrite your visual book or rewrite your routine. That's not necessarily their responsibility. So please don't expect that when you come into critique. That's not really what critique is for. Don't really ask for ideas that are not necessarily in the show. We can certainly help you develop what we've seen, and how we would recommend some improvements in terms of certainly technique on the fields and effects that are generated up in the tower. But what we can't really do is to sit there for 6 minutes and say, I think if you had a sun over there and you did this and you did that, that would be wonderful, because that's not what critique is for either. So just be aware of that. The other thing as well is we have we're not magicians. Mr. Neil Wright is probably the closest to a magician that we've got, given the gifts that he holds. I think Richard Hall is probably coming up very close. We cannot predict what anything will score on any given day. Okay, so we can't tell you that if you did X, Y, and Z, your score is going to go from a 70 to a 90. That's an impossible task to ask anyone. We don't have crystal ball ability. So refrain from that kind of dialogue, because it's just a waste of time. Nobody in their right mind will be able to give you that information. So the most important thing in terms of etiquette is come in with the passion. That tells us that you care about your production. That tells us you care about your members. That tells us you care about your routine. We want that 100%. But don't try and waste the critique time with things that are actually going to add no value to how we improve that together, if that makes sense. Next slide. Okay, there's a few things that you can do to prepare. We've touched on some of them about parking some things at the door. The most important thing is really try and get into understanding. It's third on this particular slide, but listen to the dialogue that's been given to you by a very experienced and knowledgeable judge. Make sure that you can pick out of that commentary things that make sense to you. And if there are things that make sense to you that the judge hasn't really picked up, those are things that I would highlight immediately of a worthy dialogue that can be had in critique. Know the judging system. We've had a fair amount of modifications on the judging systems over the years, and we've been on many crusades. I'm going to call them crusades, probably not the right word, but crusades to educate everybody that is going to interact or be on the receiving end of the judging system. But there's only so much that we can do on that front. We're absolutely open to all of that, and I'm sure that will be touched on a little bit later. But what we really urge you to do is take the time and to read the sheets. They're not complicated. I think the system that's been put together for the British Youth Band Association this year it brings in an awful lot of what we've had before in a modern way, and I absolutely applaud the work that's done, because it really does suit any style of performance, and that's a very tough ask in any system, and that this one does it. But you'll only get the most out of it in your design or your production or your routine creation if you understand how the marks are going to be given to you. So it's a real big thing Just read through the sheets. If you have any questions whatsoever, there are a myriad of people that you can contact, and we will be more than delighted to either come to see you or have a telephone conversation just to put those kind of things to bed. And the most important thing, which is why it's number one, is watch the performance. Watch your performance. Sorry, just a little bit. Thanks, Barbara. Watch your performance, not with that passionate heart that you've created it. Try to watch that performance where, you know, you're a judge. Okay, try to do that. That's a hard task. It's impossible for me to do that, because when I see one of my members who are very young finally achieve something that they've been working at for the last 3 months, to me that's a massive exciting moment for me. To the judge, it's a moment, if that makes sense, okay, in the whole production. So just bear that in mind, okay, when you bring that passion in. Thanks, Barbara. Okay, the 5 things that we're summarising to make the most, they're very obvious things. In fact, mostly these are common sense things, which is really, really important to understand. Be calm, professional, and listen actively, okay? Even if if you don't feel that you've been judged fairly, the most important thing is to get something out of the exchange, okay? So make sure that you prepare yourself in that way. We've touched on knowing the system. It's very important. Know how you want the judges arranged before you go in. We touched on this earlier. That's really important, because you don't want to get into the room and then all of a sudden start adjusting your blocks, getting ready to start. Be prepared before you go in. Know who you want to see. Know that that's how you want the arrangement of your critique to be. And when you get in, tell the person that's waiting, the actual marshal that's inside the door, I'd like to see this person, this person, this person together, please. Okay, you guys, you go and talk to them. This person, this person, this person, we'll go and talk to them. Or we'd like to talk to everybody at the same time, or we'd just like to talk to the chairman. Okay, so know before you go in exactly how you want to arrange yourself. Prepare. Okay, standard, very, very standard thing to do. Be prepared. Listen to the performance. Listen to the audio. Ask people around you what they thought. You know, often a neutral crowd is a very, very good litmus test on how the performance has been received. We are almost like that, really. We look forward to every single performance as a judge and hope that you're going to deliver the best performance that you possibly can. Our job is to find the positives in the performance while balancing that with things that haven't quite worked. It's very important that you understand that. So listen to the recordings, be prepared, watch the performance, as we said in the previous point, and then get to your point quickly. Don't procrastinate. If you've got an urge to talk about a specific point on one or many of the tapes, get straight into it. Don't be afraid. We are very, very thick-skinned in the judging process, and we can take any kind of criticisms or feedbacks, but it's important that you get your point across, and we will listen for those points, and then we will engage and react in those. Remember, again, lastly, this is your time. Use it as best you can and as wisely as you can, and we're here to help.
Thank you. So I don't think Tony is on. Hold on. Is anyone wanting to volunteer to cover the colour guard sheet for Tony? Or are we going to try one more time, Tony? Let's try one more time. Can you hear us, Tony? No, okay. Let's put the sheet on anyway.
I think, Barbara, a lot of the bullet points and criteria referenced on the colour guard sheet is very similar to the visual sheets. So we're talking about the quality of design, staging. You know, are the guard in the right place on the field to deliver maximum effect at the right points in the show? You know, again, we talk about visual musicality. Are the guard portraying the music in a way that makes sense. So, you know, as we talked about in the general effect, visual caption, the same applies for the guard. You know, are the colour guard able to portray the music through the use of dance, body and equipment? You know, are they giving us a variety of different styles and skills that they're able to show us on the field? You know, not just spinning, but other you know, dance work and body work in amongst. You know, are they being expressive with the way they're putting it across? You know, are they actually selling the performance to the audience? And again, as in the effect caption, talking about creativity and imagination. You know, are these ideas new? Are they, you know, are they innovative? And how are they expressing them on the field? You know, is that something they can consider in the future, if not at the moment? We talk about on the performance caption side. I think we're talking about, again, very similar to the other visual captions. We're talking about control, precision. We talk about expressive components. You know, and I guess for the guard, that's probably the most important thing. And the expression, can they put that across? You know, through. And the guard have the face as well. They're not hidden behind an instrument. Their expression can make or sell or break a show. You know, we talk about articulation of body and equipment, and that's again, how well can they carry themselves and their equipment and their rifles and their sabers? How are they deporting themselves across the field? And what skills are they showing? You know, what is the evidence of skills and qualities of skill that's on display? So that's a very brief summary as I see the current guard sheet. It really does tie in very well with the field visual and effect captions, and we're looking at many of the same things, but from a slightly different perspective.
Okay, thank you. If Tony can join us, I'm sure he can take questions, which we're coming to next. So sorry, I was on back down here.